speaker comes up here, I'd just like to add the observation that one of the things that's fascinating in this session is that we've now divorced the launch site from the launch vehicle. And so we have two kind of business opportunities now in facilities as a service, and also the fact that we're thinking beyond governments to provide these kind of support facilities. So our next speaker is Blake Nikolic. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Blake is the Director of Operations for Black Sky Aerospace, and I personally am very interested because this is a new company that I haven't heard of.
Thank you. Good afternoon now. So, as Black Sky is we'll call it a new start, fairly recent. I've got different hats that I wear, which I'll talk about a bit later. And we've generally flown under the radar a lot, so most people that I've spoken to haven't really heard of Black Sky at all. But just some of the boring bits out of the way. So Black Sky, we specialise payload delivery systems through proprietary propulsion systems, componentry and vehicles, primarily for aerospace defence environments, so commercial projects. As you'll agree, Australia is pretty late to the modern space race. It means there's a widely untouched market, and we're hearing a lot about different possibilities with providers here. This consists of companies, universities, government defence requiring to fly payloads in the southern hemisphere. There's limited abilities to fly a lot of payloads in Australia, and access to propulsion systems and vehicles are logistically challenging. A lot of things that do come from America, there's a big blue ocean in the middle of it. It's quite hard to get over sometimes. But BSA has developed and continues to develop technology to fill customers' requirements. And BSA has a foundation of infrastructure, equipment and capabilities, and exclusive access to launch sites to test and operate currently. And over the next few years, we expect to see many more startups that will emerge to tap into the market. BSA, or Black Sky, already has a foot in the door. So Black Sky utilises a range of technologies to build reliable and economic launch vehicles. Black Sky has developed a rapid deployment fin system that we can assemble and disassemble in literally a matter of minutes, and we flat pack it, so we can ship it not just within Australia, anywhere in the world with ease. Due to the scalability, we can integrate it on just about any standard cylindrical launch vehicle that exists, and we can tailor to suit mission requirements. So whether it be a high speed, high drag, a range of different things for stages and the likes. So we utilise a lot of filament wound technology, composites, amongst others. Black Sky, we have our own proprietary modular avionics package. It has built-in redundancy, high CPU capacity, and interchangeable componentry. The beauty of this, we have long-range two-way capabilities, and it operates simultaneously on a range of frequencies. Typically, people talk about the 400 and 900 megahertz ranges, and also S-band ranges. The beauty of, and also with the varying technologies incorporated already, GPS, accelerometer, barometric, etc. The beauty of our system is because it's interchangeable and modular, we are completely compliant with Australian authorities, ACMA as discussed earlier, and we can interchange the components to meet the requirements of other countries and other requirements around the place. Black Sky works with each customer's unique requirements. Every customer has a different desire, a different need, and so we go through everything from the concept through to the design, the development, and finally integration. Payloads can be fully integrated with BSA's existing systems, the avionics showed you before, utilising our CPU processing power and batteries, etc., or independent for deployment, such as atmospheric signalling devices and satellites, which is the Cubesats. Black Sky suborbital flights allow varying altitudes and microgravity time, and the ability to test long-range communication and demanding conditions prior to orbital flights. So one of the critical things with a lot of the technology that people are putting into satellites is there's a lack of ability to test them in real environments. Putting them in a room and shaking them around, and that's great. We can actually put them into real-life vehicles, fly them, and simulate the demanding and harsh conditions that they will actually go through prior to putting them into orbit. And just to change it up a little bit, they're not all Cubesats, sometimes they get cylindrical too, so we need to look at the equality of the words there. Orbital insertion capabilities is something that Black Sky is currently working on. We have been pushed quite a lot in recent times to start looking at orbital capability. Our vehicles, and especially as Scott mentioned, the JAXA SS520 launched recently, where they put the solids into orbit, that is right up our alley and where we're sort of pushing. And we're also one of the few companies outside of the US that are in the DARPA Launch Challenge. If you're not familiar with, is a requirement to try and do rapid access to LEO for satellites, and I think Rocket Lab are one of the other guys that are on there that are outside of the US. So our rocketry propulsion systems, proprietary systems that we do in single, cluster or multi-stage configurations. They're available for a variety of mission capabilities. And we also provide booster motors and other stages for things like liquids and hypersonics. I've got here a, excuse me, a small video of, this is, it's not the biggest motor, but the one reason I'm showing you this one is this is one of our latest formulas that we're working on. It's a high impulse and long duration motor. So I'll just So the relevance of this motor is we never test things in full scale straight away. This typically in that size we'd expect about 7 kilonewtons. With the formula and the geometry that we're using, we're getting closer to 10 kilonewtons. So when we upscale that to our actual flyable vehicles, start one will probably be about a 400 millimeter range, and typically for an upper stage, we're looking at about 400 kilonewtons from that size, as opposed to a traditional. We might get around sort of 350, 340 kilonewtons for the same size. Black Sky collaborates with other organisations. So as I mentioned, I wear multiple hats. Australian Rocketry is actually another company of mine which works in the amateur range of things, and I spoke with Mark about the high power rocketry side of things and how that affects it. But one of the reasons why we work with other groups is for regulatory requirements, to make sure that other groups and organisations are all on the same page, rather than 10 different guns come blazing in at the government at one time. If we can all do it on the same page, it makes life a lot easier for us and for government. And in fact, the box sitting over there, which you might all be wondering, that's the University of New South Wales Rocketry competition. That's their bits and pieces for. So there's a rocket in that box. Anyway, the Black Sky team, we have numerous accolades around the world, including international altitude records that have been set for different classes of vehicles. And yeah, it's just I'll show you a quick video of the a launch. So we like this video because it's one of the smaller suborbitals. This is about 60,000 feet, about 20 kilometers, and shows you the black sky and the curvature of the Earth. So it's a good little video that we have. Probably should have given you a roller coaster warning or something. So Black Sky operates, we have a few small sites that we utilise around the place, but specifically we have one about 5 hours west of Brisbane. As far as I'm aware, it's the highest approved ceiling altitude suborbital launch site in the southern hemisphere. It's also, I think, the only launch site in Australia that permits suborbital flights into and through controlled airspace, and above controlled airspace. That same launch site we'll be utilising for an event next year, the Thunder Down Under 2019, which is the largest rocket It's an amateur thing. And the reason why I raise that is it's also where the inaugural Australian Universities Rocket Competition will be held. So we do a lot of work, STEM and STEAM, as said, with universities and other groups to be able to test anything that guys want to throw at it. The same launch site has been used to facilitate other companies to test equipment. That's actually where Gilmore's did their first launch. And we acknowledge that the east coast of Australia is limited for orbital operations. For those who are familiar with the aviation side of things, there's the J route, as they call it, which is basically the busiest air route between Cairns down and up through to Adelaide. So apart from the northern tip of Queensland up in York, orbital launching is quite complicated. So we've been working for the last couple of years alongside Scott with the LA in capabilities in the Northern Territory, because as seen in the last presentation, the abilities to launch from Northern Territory are fantastic. And there we go. Strategic partner meetings. We work with a lot of groups in there about the NASA coming out. So that left photo is actually the NASA, or myself and a couple of guys from LA, Scott and John, the Sounding Rocket Program Operations Manager and Orbital ATK were also there to do the reconnaissance mission for the Northern Territory. And we have been discussing lots with logistics and the legal requirements. So just taking a step back, my background has been 20 years in explosives. I was also a former pilot in the Army. So I've got a lot of history with different regulatory requirements and whatnot. And I'm the main liaison for a lot of the amateur groups, as well as some of the commercial for regulatory requirements and the likes. The photo on the right that's the absolute baby of our fleet for the sounding rockets. So that's Cider 150, as we call it, technically 154 millimeter sounding rocket. That's, if you ever make it to the offices of ELA, it's sitting in the foyer, and we couldn't put a bigger one in there anyway, because even this doesn't even stand upright. The roof's too low. So just to finish off, Black Sky Aerospace, yeah, we live in a complex world with diverse requirements, and Black Sky works with you, the customer, the people that need payloads delivered, people that need assistance with regulatory requirements and the like as well. And then we know that every customer is different, and our team is there to assist in every step along the way to meet your desired goals. From inception through to integration and deployment, Black Sky's success is delivered through proactive communication with key stakeholders to identify and validate project needs to meet strategic and operational requirements. And that photo there is one of our, I'm pretty sure that's about 80 kilonewton motors in flight, so it's just a pretty photo to finish up on.
Oh, we've got time for one or two questions. Do we have any?
Oh, very thorough. Thank you.
Everybody's keen to get the lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks again to